Today we have three guests today. Councilman Kendle is here with us, our chief, almost Chief Salerno, and Jackie Pappas from the chamber. We're going to, and also Sergeant Terry Wood. So remember, we're a nonprofit organization. We only charge $20 a year membership fees. We have a big fundraiser this year that's for the kids of Asbury Park, a scholarship fund for the kids of Asbury Park, and it's the Asbury Park House Tour. We're going to be discussing that a little bit later after our speakers, and tell you how you guys can get involved and help us raise money for our school kids. And next we'll bring up Jackie Pappas, and she'll tell us about Paint the Town Pink.
Hi everyone. I just wanted to give everyone a little bit of a heads up. There's a program that we participate here in Asbury Park every year. It's called Paint the Town Pink, and it happens in May. And there are 40 cities in Monmouth County and Ocean County that will be participating. It's a program that started in Red Bank, and it has dual purpose. So the reason that the Chamber of Commerce has always been involved is one of the purposes is an economic development strategy. So in the early spring, the idea is to bring the business community to the forefront and get people jazzed and excited about the spring season. The obvious really important part of Paint the Town Pink is all about awareness for getting an annual mammography. So all in the breast cancer realm, but specifically for annual mammographies because knowing in advance saves lives. So this is a way for the residential community, the business community, and this wonderful Meridian awareness campaign to come into towns and really put the focus on this as we move into spring and make it an annual thing. So the month for Paint the Town Pink is May, and we will kick off Paint the Town Pink the first Saturday in May. So for the month of May, you may or may not know, Asbury Park is somewhat renamed Pink Park. We actually have a landing page that's normally used for first Saturday, but this will have all types of events that will be going on during the course of the month at different businesses, talking about discounts and receptions and things that are going on in that pink theme. So I'm here today because we'd really like to see the residential community come into the mix. And how can you do that? Well, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. The first is support your local businesses that are offering pink discounts and they're going out of their way to make their storefronts pink. The second way that you can do that is to actually help us to pink up the town. So we're working with the major developers that have the different geographic parts of Asbury Park to really give a big pink presence. City Hall will be pinked up. Down here at the waterfront will be pinked up. Over by the Springwood Avenue Center is going to be pinked up. And if you're really sort of wondering what that means to somebody that might be a survivor or someone that's going through the fight against breast cancer right now, I have someone in town who last year, the last day of their treatment, happened to be the first day that we started the Pink campaign. And Asbury Park is really near and dear to their heart, and they were driving home from their last treatment, and they drove through Asbury Park, and they saw our pink town, and it gave them some light and some hope and some recognition of what they had gone through. So if you can just remember what that little measure of pink that you might be able to do as a homeowner, it might be a ribbon that goes on your mailbox. It might be if you're doing your spring planting that maybe you're thinking pink, at least for the first range of your plantings. But most importantly, hug somebody that you know that's gone through it. If you can find a way to show your support, wear something pink during the month of May, that would be great. If you have a favorite friend or business owner, please encourage them to get involved. We'll be working with the fire department that are actually going to pink up the fire trucks. We're going to be changing our logo to pink. The fire department's going to change their logo to pink. The police department's going to work with us to pink up at City Hall, and we really could use all of your help. If you think it's not even a little thing that you're doing, it could be a really big thing for someone that you don't even know. So thanks so much for participating, and we'll keep you updated on all the things that are going on pink in Asbury Park in May. So thank you very much.
So we're going to bring up Jesse Kendle now, and then I'm going to move on to Phyllis to talk about the house tour after Jesse.
Good afternoon all, and I want to thank you for coming out. I'm sure this will be beneficial for everyone. Through my travels over here, I have found out that numerous of people that live in the city don't know their police officers, don't know anything about the police department. or know the laws. So I ventured out, and I went to a few places where they had this type of thing going, and I learned a lot from it. So I said to myself when I was campaigning that what I'm going to do is this. If I get elected, I'm going to try to bring this back to Asbury Park. This is a question and answer period. I'd like for to come up, come up, Sergeant Williams, and they would feel free. Raise your hand if you have a question. I will start you off, and any one of you officers can reply. What should I do if a patrol car pull me over?
Well, thank you very much, Councilman Kendle. I'll just start off and then I'll let the sergeant fill in the blanks because he's out on the road a lot more than I am. But we get that question asked a lot. Just recently I got back from doing a televised forum at the NAACP, and that was one of the reoccurring questions. What do we do if we get pulled over by a law enforcement officer? The first thing you should realize is that it's a stressful situation for both the police officer and the person being pulled over, namely you. And by the way, I get pulled over mainly by Walt Township on my way. But it's a stressful situation. What did I do? Or, oh, he got me. And then all of a sudden the panic goes in. And what's worse is when you don't know why you were pulled over. If you knew you were speeding or you knew you didn't put a directional on, that's one thing. But when you don't know, then you get all panicky and wonder what is going on here. So the first thing you have to try to do is relax and make sure that you don't do anything to upset the officer. Quite frankly, the officer shouldn't do anything to upset you. Because when you think about what officers do when they go to a car, they're meeting a stranger most of the time. They don't know what's in that car. So it's a very stressful situation for both the officer and obviously you as the motorist. Keep your hands in plain sight. Be polite. Because that type of, what officers tend to, just like you tend to, relate to people on a personal basis. Police officers are people too. Motorists are people. And they're doing their job if they're doing it properly. Now, I will tell you, I am so sickened by some of the stuff I'm seeing across the country. I just saw this morning the Alabama police officer that slammed somebody down on the ground and he's paralyzed. And there's a civil suit, a federal suit against the officer. Obviously, he was fired at 26 years old. There's good and bad in every profession. Good carpenters, good plumbers, and there's good and bad police officers too. We have a great police department. You get pulled over by any department, though. Relax. Keep your hands in plain view and just cooperate with the police officer. You'll find if you're polite, if you're courteous, if you cooperate, chances are it'll never escalate. It will never get to be anything more than the stop was intended. And most of the time, because police officers are people too, they tend to give warnings and breaks to those who are courteous, cooperative, and they don't feel threatened. So those are some of the biggies. Sergeant?
Just real, so I'll make this quick. Just real quick, some things that would be helpful as well. If you are stopped, and I know you're nervous a lot of times, things of that nature, it would be a good idea to prepare for it by trying to have your registration, maybe your insurance card, all together in a packet. Your driver's license and your wallet. When the officer comes to the car, turn on your compartment lighting so that the officer can see what's happening in the car. A lot of concerns are that the officers come to the car and they have their flashlights pointing into the car. It's because as an officer, it's very difficult for me to know what's happening in the car, and because I don't know you, I'm trying to ascertain certain information from you. Your driver's license, registration, and insurance card are the three documents that I'm most concerned about. So, as I'm approaching your vehicle, or once you're stopped, what I would suggest is turn on your dashboard light, maybe keep your hands on the steering wheel or somewhere that's in plain view, so that as I approach the vehicle, I see that there's no one else in the car. I see that your hands are not a danger to me, and now just keep in mind that I am going to be asking for those three documents. The only other thing that I would say, there's a whole lot of other things I could say, but I know that Councilman Kendle wants to move on. So the only other thing that I'll say at this time is when the officer asks you for your credentials, as opposed to going back and forth as to why you were stopped, if you present him or her with those credentials, the officer, once he has the credentials in his hand, he will be more than happy to tell you why he stopped you, and then we can progress on with the call.
Anyone else? Any another question?
If your documents are in your glove box, should you ask permission to retrieve them before you reach into the glove box?
I would because as an officer, I don't know what you're reaching for. I don't know where you keep your documents. For me personally, I keep my documents in my glove compartment. Some people keep them in the console between the seats. So if the officer is asking for your documents and you made a reach or a move with something or a place that he's not familiar or she's not familiar with reaching, they may feel uncomfortable and it may cause them to say, hey, what are you doing? And now that the conversation starts to get tense. So to answer your question, yes, I would say, just ask, my credentials are in my glove compartment or my console. Can I get it? And then the officer will allow you to do so. Sorry, someone else had a question?
Yeah, this presentation that you're making, and it's, when it's one person in the car, it's very easy to do this. Are you guys making this presentation to juniors and seniors in high school that might have 4 or 5 of their friends in the car with them, and every kid in the car is nervous about something, and they're all fidgeting around? I mean, that seems to be the most vulnerable group that would probably have the highest stress level, would be the most nervous. Are you guys explaining to them, you might not be stopped for the reason you think, and here's the way to do things?
We have not in Asbury as of yet. A neighbor in town did something similar to it. We went over and we participated with the group that they talked to about it. But it is something that we can do here in Asbury Park. Something in the near future. The only other thing I'm going to say, and I'm sorry, I said that before. I'm going to add one other thing because it reminds me of this gentleman asked a question earlier. But please, when you're stopped, please do not get out of your car to ask questions because as a police officer, I don't know what you may be doing. You may be attempting to run away from the car. You may be attempting to square up and fight me. I don't know why you're getting out of the car. So we as police officers have what we call a command voice. Get back in the car. Get back in the car. We're not mad with you or anything like that, but we want to make sure that you understand that we're serious about you getting back in the car. And once you're back in the car, now we can conduct the car stop. Thank you.
That 70-year-old woman that just got told to get back in the car is probably not too together.
Another question?
That's a good command.
Yes.
I have a question about the laws concerning noise in Asbury Park. The time of day when it's illegal to be over a certain noise level. There are people in my neighborhood that tend to party on their front porch in the summer. I always hesitate to call 911 because it doesn't seem like an emergency, but they do it rather consistently.
Yep. We have a book of ordinances that are about this thing. And for me to accurately cite the exact times, it would be, I can't, maybe Sergeant Williams can, but it does change based on the day of the week, and it changes based on what kind of noise that there is. First of all, a few years ago, and before this council was in, there was an ordinance change. We no longer do the decibel level. What we do in this town is a ordinance that was adopted because many towns adopted it, where, if you go with a decibel meter that's 10 decibels, which is what it was, there was some level set, then if you didn't write that ticket, then the officer felt that he was going to be in trouble, or the complainant felt the officer didn't do his job. The way it's written now, and I'll give you an example, construction can't start here on the weekends until after 8 o'clock. It can't start before 8 o'clock during the week. I'm sorry, weekdays it's 8. I believe it's 9 o'clock on the weekends, but they do change. So I would have to, zero in on a specific. Maybe Sergeant Williams knows, but what we're told to do as police officers, based on the writing of the ordinance, is that if we have a complaint, we take it seriously, we go, and what we do is use common sense. Is it reasonable that this noise level is at this level at this time? And of course, the time is documented in the ordinance. But short of that, say 10 o'clock at night, there's a party going on outside. If it's a weeknight, if the neighbors are calling to complain, we do everything we can to try to quell it by talking to the folks that are making the noise. If that doesn't work, we write the summons, we document the event, we let the judge decide, based on the testimony, if it was excessive. So, yes, and if you'd like to see me after the meeting, or anyone have any specifics, I'll get your name, your email address or telephone number, and I will get you a specific ordinance or information that maybe I don't have at my fingertips.
No, not at this time.
Question, please. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
One question to that point. What about the cars that drive down the street that are moving? Because where I live, I have two kinds of music that drive by. Ice cream truck and the drug dealer. So I hear that thumping, and I know if I want to, I'm going to go outside or if I want to.
Now,
What would I do in that case? Like the plate number?
Yes, if you can. The quality of life issues are very important to us. That's important to us. The problem is that by the time the police respond, the car's gone. The Weezer's around the corner, and they're not blowing their music or whatever. If the police don't witness it, they can't do anything. I want to give you a little tool that maybe you didn't have before. Our police officers are told, if you didn't witness it, that does not mean that the citizen cannot sign that complaint on the spot and do a complaint. So you can all do a complaint. Just tell the officer, I know you didn't witness it, which is what we have to do on disorderly persons offenses, must be in our presence, unless it meets like domestic violence or shoplifting. There's some exceptions to that. However, you can sign the complaint. And a lot of times the officers may not believe that, like in your case, sir, maybe the noise wasn't excessive. But you do. You still get your day in court. And we get the information and you get to sign that complaint, just like you were a police officer. So get the plate, get the ID of the car, color, make, whatever you can get, and have that information available for the officer to respond. It would be very helpful.
Yes, sir.
Two peeves that we all have. One is garbage that people just together right next to garbage. Second is dog. I walk my dog every day. I know that I go by Peter Lake, there's a place with bags and the dog. People that run on a bag, they pull over, people don't clean up. And I know you guys are busy, and I can't expect you to follow me no matter what I do. But it's all over, it's terrible. It's garbage.
Patrick, that's a good point. And that's another quality of life things, and you're right. Our police officers are not going to go around looking for blue bags or whatever color they are. But however, the evidence is on your shoe. The evidence is where you're walking. And you know what? It's a mess. And I get that. These are code enforcement type violations. The trash that you were talking about, being strewn about, they're code enforcement violations. I can speak just a little bit about that because I did oversee code enforcement for about a year and a half. Contact Rob McEwen from code enforcement, send an inspector out. Now the thing about the dog is that we all know whose dog it is. If you live there, you know who's doing it. And if you let the code enforcement officer or the police officer know when you see the dog again out there, you call when it's happening or about to happen. I guess you can't zero in on it exactly, but if you have an idea, we'll send an officer by. Police officers probably are not going to take that as seriously as other things. Code enforcement probably would, but again, we're not saying we won't do it and don't do it, just that I just know the way, what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, probably that, writing that summons and looking for the perpetrator of poop number 3, probably is not going to happen, but you are so right. It's annoying, it's upsetting, and if we just go to the person and tell them, hey, we're going to write you a $250 summons if you don't start picking up after yourself, that generally solves the problem. So I encourage you to call on those two.
Yes, sir.
Is your office a part of the Asbury Park Homeowners Association check? Is anybody in your office on that check? Only in as much as, because so much of what Cindy said, so much of what he said, constantly is being posted by, oh, I live here and this just happened, and you get 5 other people, this just happened in my neighborhood too.
that on a daily basis, as garbage cans, noise levels, cars, robberies, people here to be here, people doing this.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I'll give you right the answer. Folks here that know me, know that I'm on next door more than anybody else, probably in America, because it comes to my phone, and it annoys the heck out of me, some of the stuff that goes on there. It gets left unchecked or unanswered. You deserve answers, and I go get the answer, or I have one of my officers, and Sergeant Boyd will tell you that, I will get the answers and post it pretty quickly. Also, Mayor Moore is on there frequently. He goes on next door. I'm not sure if Councilman Kendle is on it yet, but I can help you on that. But the next door has been my eyes and ears for the last couple of years. And Jill Potter and the whole group that worked at next door have done a wonderful job to try to keep it from being a session where there's a lot of this, and keeping it focused on the issues. And it's been so helpful to me, because I can not only know the problem, but I can also let you know that we took care of the problem in an easy way. So often you make a complaint, we take care of it, you don't know. You look into it, do they do anything about it?
I don't know that from a lot of them.
Exactly. Also, there's information that you may be requesting that up until we got our website, the city website that this council put together and that we just rolled out recently, until we had that, there wasn't much in the way of getting information back to you. The website is getting better all the time. Next door, we hook into. We're also part of Nixle. If you can go on nixle.com and sign up for it, you can also sign up for Red Alerts. What both of those are is reverse 911s, and it gets information back to you about what's going on in the community.
Yes. My name is Victoria. I'm a school counselor. Excuse me. My name is Victoria Harrell. I'm a school counselor at Thurgood Marshall Elementary School. I have a two-part question. I would like to know, do you have any statistics among the youth, the crime, in terms of is it decreasing, increasing,
Oh, yeah.
or you know?
Yeah.
That's part one.
Yeah. All right. Let me handle one. You want to jump on that, or do you want to handle the stat question? Yeah, the stat question's up. I'm going to answer that in two different ways. Juvenile crime as a whole is down.
Excuse me, I don't think you heard the question.
Oh, the question was juvenile crime. Is it on the increase or is it on the decrease? And what are we doing about juvenile incidents throughout the city? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's part of my second question.
And what are we doing about it was the second question, right?
Something in particular.
Okay, you got it. Juvenile crime is going down. Now, numbers are funny. You know what they say about, figures don't lie, but liars figure. I could play games with that number and sound great. I'm going to tell you, crime is down in the juvenile setting. Crime is not down in the juvenile setting. Police enforcement is down in the juvenile setting. And let me explain what that means. If I were to walk up and lock you up for drugs, or lock you up for drinking alcohol, and I did that on my own, I just increased our arrests, 1, 2. I had 2 arrests, I had 2 crimes that we have, and 2 crimes that we cleared, right? But I initiated that. So if I lock up a lot of drug dealers selling drugs, I'm increasing our crime rate. But to not do that would be a problem too, right? Juvenile crime, and most of it is not, thank goodness, has not been of the nature of homicides, shootings, and stabbings. It's fighting disorderly conduct, use of marijuana, thefts of fights, mostly fights. The juvenile crime is down because of the way police, again, I'm not going to make excuses, but a police officer bringing in a juvenile 5 years ago, you called their parent, you wrote out the form, and you turned them over to the parent. Now, you have to sit with them the entire time until the parent comes down. You have to fill out about 18 pages worth of paperwork. So what do police officers do? If it's not serious, they're not addressing it. When you don't address the little things become big things. So it's something that we, Chiefs of Police Association, and I'm an associate member as a deputy chief. The Chiefs of Police Association, in conjunction with the Sheriff's Office, we're trying to work with the prosecutor's office and trying to streamline how we handle juveniles. Because once they've made it so difficult to, for the police officer, you know what that means. You're not going to do those things. Because if they're tied up on this for 4 hours, 5 hours, then their other officers are out there by themselves without backup. And then there's the same people going call to call to call. So the officers say, hey, this is minor. I'm not going to deal with that. I got to be available. So we're working on that.
Okay, I guess you addressed my, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you will, because what my chief is saying is absolutely correct. But the other side of it too is that in the state of New Jersey, there's a lot of concern about diversionary type programs as opposed to making arrests and things of that nature, whether it be the school system or the police department. We try to give youth a second chance. If something happens if something happens within the school, we try to give the school the opportunity to deal with it through their disciplinary process, as opposed to making arrests. So if 2 kids or 3 kids are fighting in school, most of the time, school security, along with our police officer, will see what's happening. School security, a lot of times, will break it up, and then whatever policy the school has, which is usually a very low tolerance level for violence, so maybe there's a suspension that's delivered to the kids that were involved in the fight. And so now to arrest that kid on top of that, unless there's serious damage, to arrest that kid on top of that is not something that the state of New Jersey really wants to do at this point. So usually we concede to the school policies and allow them to use their disciplinary policies. And if there's a need to transport any of the individuals home or anything like that, just to make sure that nothing else criminal occurs, our officers do that at this time.
I have something I just wanted to add to that very quickly. One of our students, allegedly Thursday, was jumped by a group of students, of youth. And he's in the hospital now with a fractured jaw. I'm wondering if something can be put in place to try to prevent it was in other boys. So I'm just saying it for the record, if something could be put in place for brainstorm ideas to try to prevent these occurrences from happening. I know that's a tough thing to do, but
Well, it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process.
Gang related?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's good you pointed that out. We have, Sergeant Williams is in charge of the school resource officers. We have an officer in every school except the elementary school. We thank goodness don't have these kind of problems in the elementary school.
He's an elementary school.
I know that, for the most part. What we do have in place in the middle school and high school is the GREAT program, gang resistance education and training. We also talk about the anti-drug movement. We talk about the DARE program, drug resistance. To answer your question, what we have is more and more programs geared to helping the youth stay away from violent behavior. By the way, we take that seriously, no matter what age. It's investigated. Juvenile or adult, it's investigated. But Sergeant Williams has put together with Tyrone McAllister, Officer McAllister, and the rest of his community policing group some of the best programs I've ever seen for youth. And I go to all the meetings and I talk to everybody from the different jurisdictions. We've got the summer boot camp, which is what, ages 10 to 12?
10 to 14 now.
Yeah, up to 14. We've got the cadet program, which just kicked off the other day. It's the police cadet program. It was the old Police Explorer program, and before you had to be a certain age to get in the Police Explorer program because it was part of the Boy Scouts of America and all that stuff. We now changed it. We go to younger folks, and I'll let Sergeant Williams tell you a little bit about that because he gets the younger folks involved in positive stuff early.
And just to kind of answer your question a little bit more too, though, if there is something whereby a fracture is done or what we call serious bodily injury, then of course a police report can be done, and depending on the age of the individuals involved, the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office makes a decision whether or not they want to charge that individual. So I don't want you to think that a kid can just jump, or a group of kids can just jump someone and hurt them up, breaking bones or things of that nature, and that we just turn it over to a diversionary program. The Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office has what they call central charging. I don't want to get into a whole lot of the dynamics of that, but basically a complaint or the report can be taken, and then all of that information, the witnesses and all of that information sent up to the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office, Juvenile Division, and then they will make a determination as to whether or not they want to charge the group of kids or whoever it was that
children ball game. And you know, I'm going to be bold here and say stuff that I was getting in trouble for saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Every time I come out and say it was gang activity or gang-related activity, the prosecutor's office has a problem with me saying that. I'm going to tell you, I've always believed that when you have a person that targets a gang member going after another gang member is different than random acts of violence where you all might believe that anyone could have been the target of that. So it helps to know if it's gang-related. Probably saying, and I understand the prosecutor's take on this, if we say it's gang-related, then folks don't want to come forward with information. So it hurts the prosecution. So,
Just to follow up on what happened with the elementary school, is there any kind of comprehensive anti-bullying program that the police department either enforces or has in place, or something that, if there isn't, is something that can work in conjunction with the school board at the elementary school? Because from what it seems to me, and I've heard a couple of different instances from various people in the past couple months, it starts off as bullying in the grades, even as young as my daughter's in kindergarten. And then once it gets to almost that middle school level, then all of a sudden you start to see some of the gang-related stuff. You start to like the initiatory gang stuff. But in those early grades, is there anything that the police department has that is like an anti-bullying program that I've seen in other
At this point, we do not have anything that deals with bullying besides the policies in conjunction with the school system. The school system has an extended policy now on bullying. I'm sure you guys are aware of that. And so we work in conjunction with them. But one of the groups that we're starting up now, I shouldn't say starting up, we revamped the program. And the big chief spoke about it a little bit earlier. It's called the CADET program, whereby we deal with kids that are between the ages of 10 and 12. A lot of them are already safety patrols within the school system. And so what we're doing is working with a group of them, and we hope to have some infomercials out where we're having them, as the kids, do little skits. I'm sorry, I got this out of I'm sorry. We're having little skits whereby we have these youth practice and just act as though they're being bullied, little things like that, so we can start saying how you can avoid that, so we can start letting the youth themselves come up with scenarios that have happened to them in school or that they've seen in school, videotape it, and the responses that should go along with it. So those are things that we're looking to do in the future. Right now, we've been a little scattered because of our department being kind of short, so we haven't been able to spend as much time lately with things like community policing as we would like to. But we have that up and running now, so probably by the new year, maybe a little afterwards, we should be putting some of those things together and getting them out, talking to the schools. We would, just so you know, we would also have to deal with the school board and have their approval before we would be able to do any of that in the school system. But we expect to have our youth, the youth groups that we're working with, pretty much ready by that time.
I was under the impression that New Jersey has some very strict laws about bullying in school.
They do. And they have enough, but they address it a little bit different. The way that they address it is really by suspension and things of that nature. They have their policy, and if I'm not accurate, then somebody let me know. We have a couple people here from the school. But in terms of, like, bullying is something that happens, and it's difficult to really know it's going to happen. It's difficult to be there when it happens, because most of the time when people are bullying, they do it away from people who can help the person that's being bullied. So when the school system realizes that somebody is being bullied, then they put their policy in. And so you may get a suspension, you may get the school board, or not the school board, but the school principal calling in the parents of all of the kids that were involved. If it's in one of our schools that we have school resource officers assigned to, the school resource officer will also sit in on that meeting and talk about things that can be done, talk about the dangers of bullying, so on and so forth. And if it leads to an investigation and possible charges out of it, then as long as we're with the school and the school is comfortable with the charges being made, then we will do the charges as well.
I'm curious, is there a curfew for summer coming up?
There is.
What is the curfew, and what is the age under the curfew?
Curfew's got two given age groups. Those that are under 14 and those 14 and over. Under 14 is 9:30. It's in effect all the time. It's on the books 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And 9:30, 14 and above can go up to 11 o'clock. On the weekends, it's midnight. There's certain exemptions, going to work, going to church, with an adult, a legal guardian or parent, then we don't fix that. But yes, they are in effect, and they are not unique just to summertime.
For the councilman, I believe for the mission of this group, for Asbury Park and for the police department, it would be great if you could reach out to a more diverse group of people to try to attend our meetings, because we cannot speak for the whole community, and we're only a small part of it.
Well, let me just add this. There's going to be 3 or 4 more this type of meetings in different settings. This is just the first, and I think Ray and Homeowners Association for this particular first time. But we will be over the months, one next month, and that will be at City Hall. So there will be more.
I mean, is there a way to reach out to
Well,
different folks to try to tell
what I'm doing is,
I mean, to see
I
the
wrote a
benefit.
letter, and I'm going to send it out to the churches, and I'm going to send it out to the community. And I agree with you. The city of Asbury Park needs to be in one of these settings. Next. What else?
Just to add to that, and Councilman, you may even want to include this, there's a couple groups that meet throughout the city. One is called a Community Development Initiative Group that has people from all walks of life, people from different businesses, people that work in the school system, people that work for different social service agencies, so on and so forth, and people who are just doing good things for kids and good things for the community, period. I'll be more than happy to give you that email.
Anyone else? All right, I'll answer that. Let's give you a small scenario. I'm walking my dog. And 2 young guys come up to me and ask me for some money. Should I get involved? I call the police? Or I should say I just don't have any money and walk away.
It's a good question, and it's a personal choice on that. I think that there's some folks here that would say, hey, I want to help somebody out if they want some money. There's other people who say that that's a nuisance and they don't want to be bothered. I think that whenever you have a person that's panhandling, which is the term we use, in a place, front of your property, at a business, and they don't belong, it's incumbent upon the person or the business to call the police. I wouldn't say call the police. The folks that are panhandling for one of 3 reasons. Drugs, alcohol, or they genuinely need the money, in which case they need help for all 3 reasons. Whether it be shelter, food, clothing. So, well, by identifying that and calling the police, we might be the intervention that might help that person. And it does not always come to arrest. Yeah, no problem.
You call 911 or if you have special.
Call the regular number. Oh, you know what, if you don't know the regular number, no one's gonna get upset with you if you're being harassed or bothered if you call 911. But if you do know the regular number, it's 774-1300, and then press 0. You go right to dispatch. If you don't press 0, you gotta watch the banner that picks up, you might get switched around. I mean, you know the way phone systems are. 774-1300, press 0, goes right to dispatch.
What was it? Anybody else? Yes.
Is there a quota on how many tickets police issue a year?
Is there a quota?
Yeah, is there a quota on the tickets?
Absolutely not. There are, and you know what? That's the standard answer because that's the truth. There is no quota. Now, do we monitor performance, productivity? Yes. I mean, if you have a police officer that works for a full year and they only write 1 or 2 tickets and they made 0 arrests, you got to wonder what they're doing for the $100,000 a year. I mean, you would want to know that, right? We want to know that. So yes, there is performance tracking. And when you have officers, just like any other job, and when the officers are not productive or they're not close to even near an average, then they're spoken to, supervisors look into it. And of course, it is dependent upon maybe their assignment. Community policing officers or those in the school resource officers, they will not be tracked like that. community policing officers are judged on how many problems are they solving in the community. Officers that are your traffic guys are going to be looked at as to how productive they are in enforcing traffic laws. So no, there's no quotas, it's illegal, but there are performance standards that we look at as a management tool.
Yes, sir.
Since the bridge work on Sunset, 4th Avenue has increased in traffic. Has there been a boost in police presence on 4th Avenue?
Yes, sir, there has been. There's officers that are assigned there routinely to monitor traffic speeds, to put up the signs, to alert the public that they're speeding, that they're going too fast. We also have one of those signs out there actually monitor speed, so we know how many cars are in excess of the speed limit, how many are in 10 miles over and whatnot. So to answer your question, the short answer is yes, we are on 3rd and 4th Avenues, more so than ever before. And I have one full-time special that's assigned there when he works, whenever he's not on any other detail.
Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to follow up on Sam's comment about getting more of the citizens in Asbury Park involved in these meetings. And I'd like to offer a suggestion that we rotate them around to the different condo buildings. And I'd like to offer a
I'm sorry, you're here for what?
rotate them around to the different condo buildings in the lobby because, if it's in the building, you're more likely to get a better turnout than around town. And I'd like to offer the Esplanade, as you know, we have a nice lobby.
Yes, and I'd like to see you out there. So one question? I'm just curious about one thing. A lot of people don't like to get involved in situations, but if you're walking down the street and you live in that neighborhood, and you happen to see cars with, first question is, people are supposed to drive cars with dark windows. The second question is, if you happen to see a money flowing from outside to inside, what should you do? Should you get involved, or you should overlook it, or, because a lot of people don't want to get involved.
You don't have to get involved by saying, hi, I'm Tony Salerno, I got a complaint I got to tell you about, and I want to testify. You don't have to do that. But you can get involved. Call the police, I want to be anonymous. You are anonymous. They can't use it. If you say, well, they're taping me, so they must know who I am. Yeah, but the fact that you said that you want to remain anonymous is something that the police, by statute, must honor. But a citizen complaint, as opposed to an anonymous complaint, is more valuable. So if you say, I'm a citizen, and I live right there, and I saw it, we have reasonable suspicion to act on it. If you say I'm an anonymous person, then we can't. We have to independently corroborate it, or we're violating some rights. So, Councilman's right. If you see something, say something. If you want your neighborhood safe, you want them litter-free, you want them bully-free, call, please get involved. I'm going to talk more later on about bullying. There's 2 things we didn't discuss, but I'm going to go way over my time if I do that now. And I'm available, and you know I am. You can call me on my cell. I'm going to give you that number now. 732-803-5712. 803-5712. I answer my cell phone at all hours, but if I call at 3 in the morning, I put you on the ditch list, you'll never get a call back.
Just to kind of tell on to what the chief said, if you find yourself in a situation where you do call the police and you want to report something that you saw in the community, if it's 3 people standing outside selling drugs, one of them is selling drugs, please, this is what I always ask people to do. One, as the chief said, if you want to identify yourself, it's great because the police officer, once you see what's happening, we can come back, talk to you, get all of the details of the incident, and when we write up our reports and things of that nature, it makes it easier for us to be able to show that we have witnesses to it, so on and so forth. But let's say that you choose not to give your name, you just want to be anonymous. One of the things that people do is they call in, and I talk about this in some of the groups that I speak with, they call in and they say, they're out here in front of my house selling drugs in front of 914, and they hang up the phone. So now they're anonymous, but also when the police officer, when that vehicle starts making a turn around the corner, those people who were doing whatever they were doing, everybody begins to take a slow walk in a different direction. So now the police officer really has no idea which person he's supposed to be or she's supposed to be trying to speak with. So I always ask that even if you're doing an anonymous call to the police, try to give a good description of the people who are involved in the activity that we're talking about. So if someone is selling drugs, and we think that the one that has the drugs is the one in the green pants with a blue hat and a yellow shirt, it would be great to give that information so that when the police officer comes up and it's 3 people and each one starts going in different directions, the police officer can only deal with maybe 1 or 2 at a time. So if you give it a really good description of what the person is wearing, the police officer can then focus in on that particular person, and we can try to alleviate those things from happening in your community.
Is it possible that I can sign a complaint against a police officer or patrolman if I don't see him do his duty, if he's sitting in the car asleep, or if I feel that he's been drinking, what should I do? Can I call down the police?
Absolutely. You
Or
absolutely.
he's speeding up and down the street?
Oh, absolutely. We have a very big responsibility that we afford police officers. When I say that, I mean you afford police officers a lot of authority. They carry guns, they got handcuffs, they take away folks' freedoms. They have a lot of things that they can do, and they also have a lot of rules they have to follow in order to do or to use force to make an arrest. If a police officer is doing something that you believe is improper, we have a very, very strong internal affairs unit. Let me just say this. We investigate those things that are not crimes. So if a police officer does something that's criminal, it goes to the next level up, and the county prosecutors investigate that officer, not the individual department. Just like if the county does something that needs to be investigated, it gets moved up to the Attorney General. So no department is going to investigate their own when it comes to a criminal allegation. That being said, we have to take complaints from citizens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and we cannot turn you away. We must take complaints from those who are anonymous, from the third party. We have to take complaints from people that we arrest, people that are intoxicated. We have to take complaints no matter where they come from. And we must document it, and it must go to our internal affairs unit. There's a whole Attorney General guideline on it. We are very aggressive because we don't want bad cops patrolling our streets. Like I said before, there's good plumbers and bad plumbers. And we, the city, does a great job of ferreting out bad cops. We have, you've read about a few, you haven't read about a few. We're doing it. We absolutely want you to come forward with complaints. It's the only way that we can help keep this police department clean and effective.
When do a police officer have the right to put his hand on a resident? Or do he have the right?
Yeah, they do. They have a right to use that force which is reasonably necessary. I sound like the book, don't I? This is right out of the age you got. When you listen to it as many years I've been doing this, you kind of remember. But police officers can use that force, which is reasonably necessary to complete their law enforcement legal function. Which means, if they have reasonable suspicion that you're committing a crime, they can stop you. If you start to walk away, they can arrest you. Or they can grab your arm. They can restrain you. Mind you, every time a police officer uses some form of force, except for a control, like grabbing somebody, holding them, they use any force, they must complete. And by the way, all officers at the scene have to complete a use of force report. It's a separate and above everything else. It's tracked. So we know which officers that use force frequently and those who don't. There's a lot of monitoring. But yes, in the short term, if the force is reasonable, police officers can use it.
Okay, well, we have more, but we have time for 1 or 2 more. If not, I'd like to have a closing remark. We have a bookmark and Mayor Moore. Put you on the spot. You okay? Thank you. Any more questions before we end it? And I appreciate it wholeheartedly. And I also appreciate it. And all that information.
adults are more effective than cops are with kids. And the reason for that is they have more tools on their belt in the schools. But with law enforcement, it's very effective. And bullying is not tolerated by law enforcement. It's not, as you know, it's not tolerated in the schools. But there's school rules, and then there's statutes. They're all new. Statutes over the last few years. Bullying is a problem, and we get involved in the schools, invite us in to help out, or when it's overt, like on the social media. Because what can happen, suicides and cuttings and all kinds of things from that, we're aware of that, and we take that seriously. We do get involved. A couple quick things I just want to say. Your involvement in the community, the phone calls we get, complaints that we get told about, the information that's coming from the community is amazing. Next door has been amazing. The Community Action Network is an organization you would probably want to get involved in if you want to get more involved in the community. In terms of knowing what's going on in Asbury Park, and I'll be glad to give you that information. It's a faith-based group where the clergy has come together. We have a lot of different programs in Asbury. I've been talking at the police department. I've been talking for days, and I've only got about a minute left. So I just want to give you some news that because of the involvement in the community, we prosecuted more cases effectively recently. So that's a big thank you to you and to the folks in Asbury Park. Our last homicide, and I'm not satisfied, but I'm certainly happy every day goes by without another one. Our last homicide that we had was January of last year. And it was a cutting that had to do with domestic violence. Not a gang, not shootings. That's a big deal here in a town, if you think about it, where every other day you were hearing about a shooting. By the way, I take no credit for it, my cops. Those guys on the street in uniform working every single day, our cops. They're out there every single day doing it. They're the ones doing it, not me. I'm just the one that gets to stand up and tell you the good news. And the other thing is we had one confirmed shooting for this year, where somebody shot a gun, and it was inside and it was accidental. It was one shooting from January to now, where a shot was fired. And the last time a person was shot was December of 2014. So I'm just saying, we're on the right track. We're not satisfied till we get to all the youth and to the children and the programs that Terry Williams has put together, and that we can change a culture of gang activity and violent behavior, and we work on it every single day. As far as getting into the schools and teaching at the elementary level, right now we have all of our school resource officers teaching gang resistance, and we need to have them full-time just to do the fourth grades, because we have a lot of children in our schools. So it is a matter of resources, but it is a priority, and we're constantly working on it. So now we're doing volunteer programs after school that Terry Williams heads up.
Let's say something real quickly, and then we can do the back.
I mean, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, but I just appreciate being able to come in front of you and try to give you an idea of some of the things that we're doing to try to address crime in our area, and also to make you feel more comfortable. So anything that we can do in terms of helping you understand how to deal with police more effectively, we want to.
Thank you, Chief Salerno and Sergeant Williams and Councilman Kendle. Our final item on our agenda is we're going to bring up Phyllis and speak to you about our house tour. We'll tell you the progress that we've made and ask for some help on our committees.
Hey everybody, thanks for sticking around. I don't know how well you can hear me. Hopefully I can speak without having to use the microphone.
That doesn't do anything.
But I just wanted to give you some updated information. The first thing that we had to do is we changed the date of the tour. It was originally set for June 21st, but Pat brought it to our attention that June 21st is Father's Day. So we moved it up so that we're not inconveniencing any homeowners and have as many people as possible to come out on the tour. So the date is June 14th. Make note of that on your calendar. So we've got some great houses. They're really beautiful homes that complete our 10 houses. And we're looking for people to join our committees. We had quite a few people volunteer last time, which was great. We still need a few more people. I'm going to read up. I really need my glasses. I'm going to read off the committees and what the jobs are on these committees.
So when we selected the houses, we wanted to get a variety of new product like Divide and Western Grove, and also some newly renovated homes that were just done. And I think when you guys see the houses that we picked, you'll be really impressed. We really picked out the gems in Asbury Park. So, we need docents.
Yeah, docents is big, and docents are volunteers that will but stay at the houses with the homeowners, just be an extra set of eyes or answer questions that people might have about the house. We like to have at least 2 or 3 per home, so with 10 houses, we need quite a few people. You don't have to stay the whole time. The hours are going to be from 11 to 4 for the tour. We will probably break that up into shifts, maybe 2.5-hour shifts. So we really need a lot of docents. If you can volunteer or know somebody that would be interested in helping out, they don't have to be a homeowner. They don't even have to live in Asbury Park. If they just want to help out and help the cause, that would be great. So please spread the word, share the information, and try to get people to help us out with that. The tickets for the tour are going to be $25 a day of the event, but if you buy them in advance, you'll save $5 and they'll be $20 for the tickets. We also have some advertising. We want to make our money 2 ways. We're really hoping to make this the most successful house tour with really hopefully to raise $10,000 so we can use that money for scholarships and summer programs for our youth. And one of the ways that we're doing that is selling ads in the brochure. I'm going to hand pass these out so everyone can take one. If you don't have a business in town that you want to advertise in the booklet, maybe you know someone. And again, they don't have to be someone at Asbury Park. It could be a business in a local community. So I'm going to give these to you and kind of take one and pass it around. Each ad will come with some free tickets. So you have the inside back cover, which is a $750 value, and you'll also get 25 tickets with that full page ad. And that's the inside back cover. Then you have just a full page ad, which is $500, and it comes with 15 free tickets. A half page ad is $275 with 10 free tickets, and a quarter page is $150, and that will come with 5 free tickets. So you can take those tickets, you can give them to your friends, or you can sell them for the $20 that we'll be charging for our advanced ticket sale. So you get a free ad and get your money back.
So you can imagine, to raise $10,000 by selling tickets, $20 a piece, it's a long way to get $10,000. So the ads are really the way we're going to make our money. And if you own a business or you talk to someone who owns a business, you're pretty much getting the value of the ad for your tickets. So if you own a store, you advertise in our ad, you have a good customer who wants some products from you, hey, how would you like to get a ticket? You know, we don't really want 10,000 people coming through my house, but we certainly would hope to have, a few hundred people come through the tour and, raise money by selling additional ads. So all of the money, 100% of the money that we raise gets donated to scholarships for kids in Asbury Park. Last year we gave 3 scholarships, and we're hoping this year we can make those scholarships a little juicier so the kids have more spending money. And so anything you guys can do to help the county committee, volunteer some time, we certainly appreciate it. People who volunteer their houses, we greatly appreciate that. We're going to be giving them a little thank you dinner afterwards, a little thank you reception party, and also we're going to invite, I think, the docents.
All the volunteers, if you volunteered for a committee, you'll be invited to our after party.
After party, and everyone knows that Asbury Park has the best parties. That's why we all move here.
Okay, just to give a little rundown on the committees. If anybody feels that they have some skills or special talents they want to help us out with, first I'm going to mention all of the committee chair people so that, I see Ed's hiding over there. I think he knows I put him on a chair list that he didn't necessarily know. Okay, so the first committee is the Advertising Sales Committee, and Michelle McGuire is the chairperson for that committee. Michelle, you have the then we have the Marketing and Promotion Committee. So obviously the Advertising Committee is to sell the ads. So if you know someone or you want to take out an ad, Michelle is the person that you need to speak to. Marketing and that's a really big help, and we'd like to expand beyond Asbury Park in surrounding communities, Ocean Township, Long Branch, so that we can really get the word out. We have a few people that have already signed up. We could use a few more, and we could also use a chairperson for that committee too. Then we have the brochure committee. Ed Baumgarten is on that committee and possibly the chairperson, if he's willing to be that. And also with Vivian Taramino, I think we kind of roped into that job as well.
You get volunteered, whether you volunteer or
Whether you
not.
want to or not, sometimes.
Sometimes.
Depending on who you are and where you are. Then we have ticket sales, the ticket sales committee, which basically is just to determine ticket sales locations. Mike Sedano has agreed to be one of our ticket sales locations, so you can buy your tickets for the house tour at the showroom. And then, as we talked about before, the docents. Peter Cunha is the chairperson for that committee, so if you're interested in being a docent or know someone, Peter is the man to talk to. Then we have the flower committee. What we really like to do is we'd like to get some of the florists in town and surrounding communities to maybe donate some flowers so that we can display those either on the dining room table or someplace nice in the home. And we'd like to, we can trade it off with advertising. And we need some help getting some florists to participate. So we'd like to.
Or you may want to buy flowers and donate them.
That's okay too.
That's okay too.
So I'm
Just to
the chair.
decorate the home the day of.
Right, and I am the chair for that person, so if you know a florist or if you'd like to participate on that committee, please come talk to me. And then we have logistics. And Pat is in charge of our logistics committee, and it's basically creating the map for the house tour and coordinating the transportation and everything that goes along with the day of the event.